My name is Susan Retik. We live in Needham, Massachusetts. So around 7:30 that morning, Dave and I spoke from the airport, and basically the last thing he said to me was, "I gotta go, we're boarding." And I left, and I got in my car and was driving to the grocery store, and I turned off the kids' music and put on NPR and was immediately hit by the events of the day. And, as I was driving, it just became more clear that there was a possibility that this was Dave's plane. And I turned around and I drove home. And I was able to go onto Dave's home computer, and I saw his itinerary, and it said American Airlines Flight 11. And I knew in that moment, literally, right after I found out, and I told people or whatever, people started coming over to my house and helping out. People just started taking over. People just made it all kind of okay on the surface so that I could deal with the grieving. As I began, coming out of the fog of my new life, one day I was watching Oprah, and the story was about Afghanistan, and it was focused more specifically about women and the roles of women in Afghanistan and in their culture. And I was really shocked at what I was learning. While the Taliban was in power, women were not allowed to work, girls were not allowed to go to school. So I remember thinking, if it was so terrible to be a woman, what would it be like to be a widow? And here I had just been widowed, and I had small children. And as I was saying, people helped me in every conceivable way so that I had time to grieve. And I never had to worry about moving out of my home. My kids still went to the same great schools, or the status of my life didn't change. We live in a peaceful land, and I just felt like these women over there have nothing, feeding their kids and having a roof over their heads, and just is not a given. And I just felt like, well, maybe I could connect with one woman. That's how it started. The terrorists who wreaked havoc here on September 11th clearly had a mission of spreading hate. And I just didn't want to be a part of that. I spoke to my new friend Patty Quigley, who was also widowed and pregnant on September 11th. And when I told her of my idea, she quickly jumped on board. That was the seed of Beyond the 11th. So in the fall of 2003, we made it official. And our mission is to help widows affected by war, terrorism, and oppression in Afghanistan. And we do that by making grants to non-governmental organizations doing good work in Afghanistan. And we look for programs that give the widows an opportunity to learn a skill and a trade. And we really do this in the hopes that she will have an opportunity to send her children, especially her girls, to school. 85% of all women in Afghanistan are illiterate. It's this next generation needs to be educated, both boys and girls. I do believe that it's through education that it's another way to fight terrorism. When we first began Beyond the 11th, we always knew we wanted to go to Afghanistan, and we wanted to meet these women, and we wanted to make it real. The women that we met, for the most part, were very strong, capable women. I mean, many of the women we met had never lived in anything other than war. And I say this, it doesn't matter what country you live in, it doesn't matter what nationality you are, what religion. We want the same things for our kids. We want education, we want health and happiness, we want peace and security. And so it was very obvious when we were meeting these women that this is what they wanted for their children too. We were communicating in the language of motherhood. As a result of my life changing, it made me want to reach out to other people. People want to hear our story, and then they become interested in helping widows in Afghanistan as a result of hearing our story.